Morning guys, Keith here with Two Guys How To, June, and as usual we got to fix something. So we got this Bobcat. It's a skid steer loader. It's a 773 model, and it's the model that has the actual gauge in the front. That it's a digital gauge. You got some 773s that have digital, some that don't. We've got a couple models. This one has the digital gauge system, the dash up here when the unit's on. Yesterday I was using it, and codes came up, EC1, EC2. Basically, if you look in the code book or Google it or whatever, it'll say overheating, shut down, or stuff's going to hit the fan, shut it off immediately. So what you want to do is we diagnose it. We got the overflow bottle, and the overflow still got stuff in it. It's not all the way low. You can see it's got about an inch in there. It could probably take another inch. The overflow tube is still hooked up. Took the cap off. Plenty of fluid down in there. But we noticed on this particular model, you've got your hydro radiator. This cools the hydraulic fluid, and you got your engine coolant radiator. The main radiator lays underneath that. So you've got a sensor here. Here's your temp sensor, and we're in the back of the unit, and I'll show you. The back door's open. We've got our little tool station here, and this thing has a sensor, and basically the blue wire right here gets crimped down up underneath there. That goes down to the temperature sensor that sits in the fluid, registers the temp. And it's got this little ground wire here, and it's got a little bolt that screws into this brass plug into the main temperature sense. And it's a screw, and it just looks like this little teeny thing that screws right into the side here, and it's hard to get down in here. It screws up in there. Well, of course, the head of it is broken off, so we can't tighten it. We tried to tighten it. The head broke off. It's either you got to order a new sensor piece or whatever, but you know we had the Two Guys How To charm on it, and we want this thing fixed today. We want to diagnose it. We will eventually possibly order another sensor, keep it in the garage, but what we're going to do is we're going to take this little claw that they've got the two wire attachments here. One's blue, that goes on the top. The other one's black, it goes on the side where that screw busted off right there. We're going to cut this claw off of here and just go ahead and put a hoop. And we've got an assortment of hoops here. We've got a gold one for the fancy audio systems if we put those in, or just your knockoff cheap Harbor Freight China ones. And we've got a slightly bigger one. We're hoping one of these is going to fit, and we're going to basically cut that claw off right there and just attach this brand new one where the claw is, and we're going to set it down. We're going to unscrew this top part of this sensor up out of here, and we're going to, once we crimp that on, we're going to set it down. So we're going to show you exactly what we're going to do just to knock out those two codes, the EC1 and the EC2. So if June wants to get busy and cut that off, but let me show him something real quick, June. This comes apart. This main piece stays down inside the radiator, and this sensor screws into that piece. So June's going to unloosen that just to make sure we can break that free there. You just be real gentle with it, because you don't want to break anything, especially if you don't have parts and you're trying to get through that job today. We know how it is. You want to get this thing running. You don't want to blow it up, and you don't want to break stuff. So if he takes it all the way out, we're going to lose a lot of radiator fluid. So we're just going to leave that a little bit loose the way it is. It's pretty good. And he's going to cut that claw off of there, and we're going to put one of those hoops. So when we hurry up and unscrew that out, take it out real quick, and we put our hoop down and our star washer on there. Yeah, I think that'll fit. We won't lose too much fluid. So June's going to cut that claw off of there. If I can get down in there and see what you're doing there. You're just going to cut it back. We're going to strip this wire, and he's going to strip it. We got a pair of strippers there. You can use whatever. We use the right strippers that way, because that wire is so dang short, you don't want to lose any. And we got a piece of heat shrink here that we're going to put on that wire before he even crimps that new hoop on there. You want to put that on there, June? So he's going to slide that heat shrink. We got a little teeny piece of heat shrink that's going to go up on there. That way when you crimp that new hoop on there, you won't be able to get the heat shrink wrap on there later. So we're going to put it on now. Yeah, we're going to get some Dielectric Grease and this hoop is going to go right up on here, like so. We use the Dielectric Grease. We're going to put a dab right there, and you can see that fitting will go right up in there, like so. It's a little big for this unit. This has a little slot, so we're going to make sure we crimp it down extra good. And once that's on there, we use these special crimp tools. And you could use almost anything, but the tools are good and they're color coded to where you've got your upper, you've got your blue and your yellow dots. Those blue and yellow dots, those coordinate with the type of crimp piece or the hoop that you're putting on there or whatever you're doing. Since this is yellow, this piece here is yellow, we're going to use the yellow part of this crimper. You see how it's bigger, and it'll go right over top of there, like so, when we crimp it down, and it'll be in there like this. Trying to get it and hold the dang camera, but you can see where it lines up. So when he squeezes that down, it's going to pinch that connection, and he's down in the yellow spot of that. There you go, June. Give him those tools there. So he put a little dab of, let's show him what we got here, of the Dielectric Grease here. He put a little teeny dab right on the tip of that wire. That'll fight corrosion down the line. It makes it a little more slippery and messy, but it fights it. So he's going to put that, the hoop down on there, on that wire, and he's just going to crimp it down. Yep. It's a little wobbly, so he's going to give it a little bit extra torque. You don't want to pinch through the plastic, the yellow plastic part, but if you do, it's okay because we've got the heat shrink. And he's going to tug on it just a little bit. How's it feel? Good? All right, so he says it feels tight. He's going to slide that shrink wrap up over there. Let me get over here. He slid that shrink wrap up over top of this, the yellow part of that hoop. Can you show him that real quick, June? Real slow. See? And he's just pushing that shrink wrap up over top of it. And he's got an old cigarette lighter or whatever, and he's going to heat that. When you heat that gently, you don't want to catch it on fire. It's going to shrink down and form a nice seal to keep that connection and keep that wire protected. So if it bangs up on the motor or it gets close to the other part of the sensor, it's not going to contaminate it with a different charge and ground out or do anything radical that it's not supposed to be doing when you're using these machines. So he's got that heated up, and it's tight on there. So what we're going to do is we're going to team up on it. When he unscrews that temperature sensor out, we're going to slam this down, but you want to get some grease on this too. Let's put a little bit of Dielectric Grease on this. You don't want to go heavy, but you want something there. So when he takes that out, we're going to hurry. Oh, where's the washer? We got these specific star washers, and they're good. They will not let things loosen up. So you could use a fatter washer, but we like these aluminum ones. They pinch down. Any washer would work as long as it fits that circumference in the middle.
I'm going to pull it out with the fingers so you can do it all together.
Okay, he's going to pull it out. He'll put his finger over top that hole. So he's taking the sensor out now, and the antifreeze will come out, but he blocked it. So, and you can see the sensor. You got that, June? You can see this temperature sensor. That one blue wire went in the top, and this screws down into that other brass fitting where the screw busted off that holds that other crab claw connection. So we're just going to double check this, make sure this fits. Yep, it's a perfect fit, so that's good to go. And we're going to take this back over and hurry up and put this down through there like that. Boom. We've got the grease on there, the connection's good, and when he takes it off, I'm going to hurry up and put it down in there. Boom. And just spin it and tighten it up. So we barely lost any antifreeze, especially if you're out on the job site. You don't want to fill this thing up with just straight water. I mean, we've done it just to run and check the systems, but I wouldn't recommend it. This little claw might rub into that there. I'm not liking. But it's all right. It'll get it done, and we'll pinch that down with a pair of pliers or something, or reroute this on this side. We'll pull this out and reroute it, just like this. This is your antifreeze overflow tube, so we'll reroute that back up on there. Maybe June can do that. And we'll zip tie it or something over there, or put a piece of, we'll put a little piece of conduit covering right there, some wire loom. So he's going to just tighten that back up. And right now we cut the crab claw off, which was the grounding wire. So we went ahead and just grounded it to that main brass part underneath in between the switch. So it's grounded down there. And then here's your top little claw piece. That's going to go right, you peel this back. It's going to go down into there. And he'll put a little bit more electric grease on it. We had some grease on it earlier. And tighten that up. And we're going to run this thing. We're going to start it and run it. And it's hard to get up in here, up inside here. And if we get too close, it's going to go out of focus. So he's just going to tighten that down, or I can hold it while you tighten it. Yep. You hold that on there like that. Just gently tighten that back down. That's your positive part to that sensor. So now our continuity should be back between the positive and negative, and that sensor should read as it's supposed to. And we're going to start it and let it idle out here. We check the overflow. We'll top that off a little bit. It's pretty tight there. Our new one here is tight. We've got this little grommet, weatherproof grommet that comes over it. We're going to put that down on top, and it's good. So now we'll top this off. June will top off the overflow back in here. And we're going to go ahead and start this unit and see what we've got going on. And see if that code comes back up or not. You're going to have to let it run for a little bit. And it'll be the temperature all the way to the right. You can barely see it back up in there. Those bars will register up. We're getting a fuel reading, which is good. It's showing 3 bars on the fuel, but we're not getting any EC1 or EC2 shut off, overheat. So let's go around back to the back. And usually on these, it's either going to be low coolant, you got a leak somewhere, bad thermostat. Hopefully not the water pump, or one of the fins pump can break. We're going for the easiest, cheapest way, simplest way first. So I'm going to get back up on the motor. We're going to go over there and look down in and see if we can see the fluid. When the cap's off, we can see that fluid moving around. If we can see the fluid moving around, then we know the thermostat's open and it's good. You can't reuse them. If it doesn't open, just throw it out, put a new one in, put a new gasket, you're good. If we don't see it moving, we're going to go to something else. But just because it doesn't move doesn't mean it's not working. It takes time for that thermostat to heat up, and that little pellet's going to open up, and that's going to allow all that antifreeze to go through the motor. So don't sweat it if it's not moving right away. Let the unit run. Listen for the beeping up front. If it beeps, it's going to spit out that code, that EC1, EC2. So we're going to let it run for a little bit and see if that code comes out. And watch this antifreeze up on the top, see if that thermostat opens up. Right now, it's a little low, so we're going to go ahead and top this thing off and keep checking these gauges up front. June's going to get a little bit of water because I put some straight antifreeze in it before. And we're going to keep watching those gauges, watch that temperature gauge, and keep watching this thing until it does what we're going to do. We want it to do. We want to run it. We want it not to overheat. So let's keep watching this thing. And we're going to go ahead and top off that overflow too. And we're going to run this thing for a little bit. Get it a little hotter quicker. We're not going to take it far back into the back lot or anything like that. We're going to keep it right around the shop. That way if it overheats, we can either turn it back off, let it cool down, move it back here, or hurry up and move it back here. If you start using this thing and you think it's totally fixed right away, you could be shooting yourself in the foot, especially if you're way back far off the job site or from the trailer or whatever. So let's just keep monitoring this thing, top it off, and we're gonna see if that thermostat's open up, see if the beeping noise comes back, and see if that EC1, EC2 is back on there. And it's summertime, so we can run a little bit more straight water if you need to in a pinch. We've got plenty of antifreeze in here, so we just topped it off to see the results out of the, see if the thermostat's opening up or not. Let's check these gauges out. Still pretty low, right around 2 bars. I'm going to turn up the idle a little bit so we can get this thing heated up quicker. And we're still at 2 bars. So still at 2 bars. Let's go back and check that thermostat, see if that cap's running running the fluid through right. Yeah, I think that did it. It's running right about where it should be running. See any movement? Take a little time to heat up. Let's back it out, move it around a little bit, get it hot. Whoop. That cap back on there. We're going to move this thing around, get the engine temperature quicker. Go. Just be patient with it. You'll figure it out. Yeah, we're still at 2 bars, so let's move this thing around a little bit. Like you normally would. Like I said, don't take it super far. Yeah, run that boom up and down. Run the boom up and down. Get all those fluids hot. Run this thing back and forth a couple times. Look back up in there. I'm only seeing 2 bars. So it's been on a good little while. We're still at 2 bars, so let's juice it up a little bit more throttle. And we're gonna run it up the hill here. it's been on for at least 5 minutes. And once again, it's still at 2 bars up in there on the temp. There's no codes. It would normally say EC1, EC2. I think we got it. We could double check that thermostat back there, but just to make sure. Be careful because all this stuff's hot. It's coming out when you open the cap, so let's open it up. See if we see some movement up in there. And it's hard to see because the machine's going to vibrate, so it's going to look like it's moving. But you also want to kind of see if the fluid's kind of going down and circulating around it through there. I think it is. June says it is too. So. And it's hard to see, but you can see it'll go from this direction like that. Whoop. It'll go like that. You'll see it. It'll just keep going down like this. And I noticed it. June noticed it in that same direction. So we're good. 2 bars on the front. Not overheated. I didn't run it hard, but this thing, normally, if that sensor's bad or you've got a problem, that EC1's going to come on instantly. Within 5 minutes, EC2 is going to tell you shut it down, shut the machine down, or you're going to blow it up. So he topped off everything. We're shutting it down. And you can see, simple. Check the pressure switch. If you get the codes, your unit's overheating, don't freak out. Start at the simplest thing first. Check your belt, check your fan belts, make sure those are all on. Make sure all your pulley belts are on because that's what's running your coolant fan. It's going to cool your hydro fluid as well as pull air out of that radiator. We checked the sensor. The sensor was messed up. We got it. 2 guys how to. And we're done with this thing, right? So that's it. Next time something happens with your unit, 773, 753, or any unit for that matter of fact, you know, just double check stuff. You can see what we did. We started with the simplest thing first, is that temperature switch. And I'm going to put a little piece of wire loom right here. And just remember, don't get flustered, man. You can fix this stuff. You don't need to call a guy out. You don't need to take it to the shop. If you want to, you can replace a brand new. You can get a brand new sensor, even if you just get it and keep it at the shop just to have it, because this is a cheap fix versus the water pump down in there. Or your thermostat's pretty easy. It's a little awkward getting to, but fairly easy. And if it's overheating, just double check. So you got belts up in there and belts back in there. It runs that fan pulley that's inside here, and that fan spins around. It pulls air down off of that hydro coolant radiator as well as the regular radiator. And just do it and fix it yourself, and don't freak out. June's going to put this little piece of wire loom over that tube that we relocated, the AntiFreeze overflow tube. That way it won't rub into that star washer that we have, or even onto the fitting itself. The way they had it, just over time will rub out and wear out. You can either zip tie it or leave it like that. Probably be okay, and we're good. So we're out of here. Keith, 2 guys how to. That's June over there. Might get raw on this van windshield today and shoot another video. And remember, subscribe, like. We always got crazy stuff coming up just on fixing things. And get some of it, do it yourself, save that money. We're out.
I'm not a pig, I'm a lawyer.